Today's MMA T Company Fighter Spotlight is with Nic Harrington. Nic was supposed to be fighting here in a couple of weeks and due to injury had to pull out of the fight. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about his career in grappling and the start of mixed martial arts. Nic, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. First surface level question, like we were talking beforehand. How are you feeling with your eye after, busting it up a couple weeks ago?
I mean, they got me on a lot of pain meds, so I actually right now feel okay, but like in general, when I wake up in the morning, it's pretty awful. I didn't break like any like this, so I broke my orbital bone, but that's actually a bunch of bones. I'm just regurgitating things from people way smarter than me, but that's actually a bunch of bones, and I didn't break any of like the outside ones. I broke the three of these paper thin bones that hold your eye in place. So I didn't really like, I kind of knew it when it happened, but then I went home and I sneezed and I blew up like that Cowboy Cerrone fight. I blew up like that and just started pouring blood out of my nose and was like, all right, we got to go to the hospital, obviously. And
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's not ideal. But yeah, basically I can't do anything strenuous because it's just muscles holding my eye up right now. So I'm even doing push-ups in like sets of 10 just to stay active, but not straining. They told me that like when I go to work, I work in a metal foundry, we do like anodizing dips and stuff. And if I have to breathe differently to lift it is how he described it. So like, normally you can just carry stuff, but if I have to go to get it, I can't do that. I could apparently pop my eye all janky. I don't really know what would happen, but he made it sound all sorts of nasty, so I'm trying to avoid it.
And this was a fight that was scheduled that was supposed to be your MMA debut. You were supposed to have an MMA debut previously, right? So another time you go through a whole fight camp, get almost down to the wire, right? And then there's no fight.
It's been progressing actually. So I got told early this year that like late spring, early summer, we were going to start looking, depending on how COVID shook everything out. We were looking at a card there. We were talking to a matchmaker. He said he was looking for somebody. It didn't get beyond that level, but you start to tell your, friends and family, hey, watch out, I might have something coming up. Okay, cool. That was supposed to be like June or July, maybe August, the latest. And then the thing for September came around. And we were like, okay, we're going to get you a fight. You're on the list. We're good to go. We got like 3 dudes we're looking at. And then the one dude just like his coach agreed, I think, but he never agreed. I don't know. I don't want to put anybody's names in it. I don't even really remember who it was, but it was just a fiasco that got drawn out. And then they kept asking for other people that like as a fighter, I'll fight pretty much anybody. But my coach was like, hey, we like these guys for like your third fight. We don't want them for your first fight. They were a lot. One of them was actually a friend of mine. I'll shout him out because he's talented. Justin Piet from Chicago. He's like a D2 wrestler. He coaches a bunch. And they're like, hey, we can fight guys at that level when you're, 2-0, but as your debut, a Division II wrestler and still a coach and a stud is not the way to go. Like, okay, whatever. So that fell out, but we didn't know it was going to fall out until like 2 weeks because we were still waiting for the guy to accept it. We got it from his coach. We were good to go. So that happened. And then they said, we'll get you on the next one. So the next one was December. Right away, we get an opponent. Well, they kind of, we went back and forth on opponent, finally picked an opponent, got it good to go, got all geared up, was losing weight. I was already down like in the diet part of the cut, we were on track for that. Training going good, and then we get a little rowdy member of the gym and stuff happens.
Now when this happened, I did get to read your Instagram post, and it felt like it was very from the heart, right? And you were just you were upset. You were training for this fight. It's something that you've been looking forward to, the way you put it, pretty much your entire life, right? You've been looking to get into the cage for a very long time. Talk me through just kind of the wave of emotions that you had during that time of being like, this isn't just not going to happen for this fight, but now I'm out for, an extended period of time and we're pushing all of this back.
So, it depends on what layer we want to look at it. But like, I got into fighting when I was 15, 16, and I got into it like kind of the wrong way. My friends and I watched the A-Team with Rampage Jackson. And they kept looking at him like this badass. And I was like, who is Rampage Jackson? And the first thing that comes up is him spiking Ricardo Arona's head into the next universe. And I was like, whatever that is, I got to do it. So my friends and I started buying gloves, and we'd beat each other up for fun.
Mhm.
But that went on for 2 3 years. Like, we just thought it was really fun, but I was the only one that, I shouldn't say took it serious, because I didn't get into a gym till I was 19, but like I would YouTube moves, and I was trying that Anderson Silva front kick on anybody who would let me do it, So, and then at 19, I got beat up by a dude who was training at the jiu-jitsu gym I train at now, and he suggested him, so I showed up. So, it's been 5 years of legitimately training, even though I only picked up kickboxing about 2.5 years ago. 2 years ago, we're gonna go with two, so I don't get yelled at. I was only ever doing jiu-jitsu with the intention of it being a real fight. I was only competing to get ready for real fights, or to get closer, at least in my head. So, that's the way I've always been thinking about it. But even now, it's hard to tell people you train MMA, or that you're a fighter, or that you're going to be a fighter, and then you have to explain why your record is 0-0. It's hard to put all the work in. It's hard to do all of it. It's a lot. And now, for 2 full fight camps of just getting my ass whooped by Jordan Berg, who's 3-0 as a pro and a super stud, and we got a couple of smaller guys in the gym who are 1 or 2 and 0 normally, and even they're beating on me. They're talented as well. It's a lot to go through, to not have the payoff at the end, where you get to look at everybody and be like, look, this is what I've been talking about for the last decade of my life. This is why I've been skipping holidays and spending thousands of dollars on tournaments in Chicago and wherever else, to finally have it culminate in something that's cool, and that I can show everybody, and that I can display, I guess.
And,
I'm I'm a firm believer, I think, at least, that like one of the meanings of life is to collect blessings so you can give them to everybody else. That's why I'll act crazy, and I'll wear pink shorts to jujitsu tournaments, and I'll bleach my hair and do it all sorts of colors, and I'll talk shit to people when I feel like I need to talk shit to them. But I want that attention so that I can turn and give it to everybody else. So to me, it's bigger than just me. It's given my dad something to brag about me at work. And it's given my coach another person to put on the website and be like, hey, we raised this guy. It's collecting those eyes for me, sure, but then to just pass it along to the people I love and that I care about. So when a fight comes through, especially this close, where we've already dieted down and we've bought tickets, and we've scheduled, not just me scheduled hotel, but 20 30 other people to all drive down, and we're selling t-shirts. And, well, what are you buying a t-shirt for now? I'm not a fighter yet. I don't have a fight coming up now. It feels even weird for me, pumping it to people. It's weird. It's like an embarrassment in a way. And it's more than like a hobby that got taken from me, albeit temporarily. I mean, I'll probably fight in April or whenever I can heal up and get training. But after it being like the second/third time, depending on how close we are, it becomes a weird, like, boy who cried wolf thing. Like, now I'm going to feel bad when my fight comes around in April, and I'm like, hey, mom, I know you bought tickets last time, and I know you had to argue to get a refund, and I know you had to cancel a hotel, but we're going to do it again. And this time it's going to happen. It's all of it is just a weird mix of emotions.
yeah,
On top
and
of the fact that I can't sleep on the right side of my head without potentially going blind. There's that factor mixed in there too. That's an emotion to deal with in and of itself.
and there's such a and I've had to pull out of fights, and I've had people pull out of fights, and there's such a feeling of guilt, right? Where
Yeah.
it's not even something that you did on purpose or that you can even really control. Like, people get hurt in the gym all the time, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you feel that guilt because you want to go out and show your friends and family why you skipped all those things, why you've been
Yeah.
doing all these things. Like, my favorite thing with fighting was always, if I would go from like a jiu-jitsu tournament to an MMA fight, to show the people that followed me how I've progressed, like, and then from one
Mhm.
fight to the next. And it seems like you're kind of in that same vein where,
Mhm.
you want your dad to be proud of you at work. So your dad probably has watched you train, or he comes to your tournaments, or those different things. So for him to
Knows
then
about him.
watch,
Yeah.
yeah, to watch the progression from like that first white belt tournament where,
Yeah.
nobody knows what they're doing, to then, you going out and getting in a cage fight and potentially winning that fight. There's a lot of pride that comes with that for
Mhm.
everybody that comes to see you. um did you have people reaching out to you saying, you're probably apologizing to people, being like, hey, I'm sorry, the fight's off. People are
Yeah.
probably coming back to you and being like, hey, it's okay, like, it's not your fault. Like, is there
Yeah.
people giving you encouraging words and reaching out and things like that?
I have had no one respond negatively, but that doesn't change the emotion, which is the other weird part,
Yep.
where it's like, well, wait, we bought shirts because we support you, whether it's now or 4 months from now. It's like, yeah, I know, but I was selling them in lead up to a fight. So sorry about that part, I guess, or I mean, anything really. It is cool, for my dad's progressed already because I've done these like jujitsu super fights. Like one of them, I got flown to Florida, Vigilant MMA, shout out to them, Brandon Lee. He flew me down there. I grappled on pay-per-view. I'd been doing jujitsu for 3 years at that point. I fought a dude on 2 hours notice who had been a purple belt for the same 3 years, but it's like my dad got to tell everybody who watched me on pay-per-view that weekend, the progression from I picked up a new hobby and I do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays to that is wild and it's cool. But it's a lot easier for my dad to walk in there. My dad just left hook this kid in the face, It's a lot easier than explaining that jujitsu is just spicy high school wrestling,
And speaking of high school wrestling, did you wrestle in high school? Did you have a grappling
No,
background? Nothing.
no. I literally got beat up in my bedroom by a dude who trained at Green Bay Jiu-Jitsu, and he was like, "Hey, these guys are good. You should go there." And then I did, and they've been putting up with me for like 5 years. The coach there is his name is Andy Kazik. Well, one of the coaches.
Mhm.
Andy Kazik was, I think, 2003. He was a D3 national champion. So a lot of our warm-ups are wrestling. I mean, he just kind of beat up on me till I figured it out.
Well,
I'm not going to say I can wrestle. I'm just going to say that, like, so my theory when I go into jujitsu matches is I'll kind of do stuff that I feel like wrestlers would do. And if they react like a jujitsu guy, I'll take them down to make myself feel better. But if they react in any sort of educated wrestling way, I pull guard instantly.
so you're kind of like me, and you have a decent wrestling base for someone who didn't wrestle. But then there's
Yeah.
those guys that wrestled for 15 years, and you're like, I'm just gonna sit in my butt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Like I have this one little fake that I saw. I was watching something on Flow Wrestling. I don't even remember who did it. I think it was Suriano because I like him. Nikki Push-Ups out at Rutgers. He'll like touch their head and then he kind of drops his level like super exaggerated and touches the side of their knee. And if they do stuff that looks like they wrestle, I just pull from there. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not getting slammed. I got slammed on my neck once as a white belt, and that was pretty much enough for me to be like, look, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to pretend I do.
So you have no real like combat background in terms of wrestling or even like one-on-one sports, right? So
No.
what was the mentality for you, like going from just kind of a backyard brawler with your friends to then, not long after that, you're doing jujitsu tournaments and that's that one-on-one setting to then actually being on
Mhm.
pay-per-view and being at these super fights in not a very long time span. I mean, guys are wrestling from the time they're 3, and by the time they're 6, they have 150, 200 matches
Yeah.
where, you're an adult at this point. You have to kind of learn that whole mental side of this
Yeah.
one-on-one competition.
So there was a thing that switched. I mean, part of it is just like, what everybody else says, where like, you get picked on in school. They sent me to the rich kid school. I was the only kid on food stamps. So I'm bound to just be angry as a whole. And they're bound to poke at me, which makes me more angry. There's some of that, but also like in team sports, I didn't realize this until it changed. But in team sports, I never wanted the ball in the fourth quarter. I never wanted to take the last shot. I never wanted to be at the free throw line like Kobe at the end of the game. I never wanted to be that kid. And then as I started to do jujitsu a little bit and started to trust myself and started to notice that I knew things, I started to notice also that like when I played basketball, for what I did average, it was always, well, you won because you got so and so on your team, and I was never so and so. And it's like, no, hold on a second. Now that I got older and I get to look back, and now I'm in jujitsu tournaments, and I did that first one and I got my ass beat. But I got my ass beat. I didn't get my ass beat in like a basketball game where I only played 12 minutes of a 48-minute game, but I got to sit here and deal with it like I was on the floor for 36 minutes. I got my ass beat. I was like, there's something cool about that. And then I went to the next tournament and I golded, but I golded. No one could look at me and go, oh, you golded because so-and-so, you did that. And as soon as I felt that gold medal in my second tournament and nobody could take it away, I was like, this is the greatest feeling of all time. Like, this is undisputedly mine. No one can say a damn thing. I'm not going to be that Patrick McCaw guy who won 3 finals in 3 straight years and didn't play a single minute. Like that won't be me. I'm doing whatever this combat sport thing is, whichever sport I join, whatever it is, whatever I win is mine. So fuck everybody, respectfully.
Yeah, and it's the weirdest feeling, right? Because while it is an individual sport from the time that you step on the mat or step in the cage or step in the
Mhm.
ring, leading up until that point, if you don't have a good team around you, then
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot you can do, right? You see
yeah,
guys come into these fights all the time and they're like fighting out of a gym and they're fighting, by themselves or they're, not on a
yeah.
team. And you rarely see those people do very well outside of
No,
like the
yeah,
0 and 1, 0 and 0 type of fights.
yep.
Once you get into the 3-4 fight rankings, they're not doing very well.
No.
So, what's that like for you to be like doing these things individually, right? But then at the same time, you do have a team to go back to. You have a coach to bounce things off of, and it's a very selfish sport. But at the same time, you have to work as a team.
Um, I love it, especially the MMA coach will make shit just about me. Like for fight camp, I was the only one in fight camp, so it was just about me. That was it. So, but like, we're friends on Facebook, so either one of them, I'll just send them a clip that I saw, and it could be 3 in the morning. They might be up. If not, I'll get a response when they get up for work or whatever. I'll see something. Oh, TJ Dillashaw just posted this, and I think it's kind of cool. What do you think? Well, you shouldn't be shuffling like that yet. You're not at that level. Okay, fair enough. Whatever it is. Um, yeah, it's cool. It's hard, but it's cool. Like I said, like I win the fights and I lose the
Mhm.
fights, but in so many ways, they win the fights and they lose the fights by what they show me and what they make me do in the gym. Because I'll be honest, I don't want to do a damn thing in the gym, but as soon as they tell me to do it, I'll do it.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of it. I mean, most of it is their brains. I mean, if we really think about it, I'm just regurgitating whatever they've taught me over the extent of time I've been at their gym. So outside of the couple BJJ Fanatics instructionals I bought, I'm pretty much just a regurgitation of whatever they can teach me and get to stick.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing going back to point one where I said, I said I'm just collecting blessings to give them to other people, and a lot of it is that too. Like I am collecting these things because they feel good to me, but what feels even better is getting to turn around and go, hey, Title Town MMA and Green Bay Jiu-Jitsu, shout out to these guys. I have to get that to give it to them, and I get to pass it down to my kids, but also I get to pass it along to them as my version of the best thank you I can give, I guess. I don't have too much else to give them.
Yeah, and as
But
someone who coaches, it's the greatest feeling in the world when it's basically like playing a video game, right? And you just can
yeah,
shout out exactly what you want that athlete to do, and they do it. And then the opposite of that is, like you said, if you can't regurgitate it, you feel like you're failing them as a coach, right? When
yeah,
they're not doing those things. So, shout out to all your coaches, right? Because it's a hard
all of them,
job and it sucks.
all of them,
It's great, but
all
it
of them.
sucks at the same time.
Yeah, especially dealing with me, dude. I'm so hard to deal with. I've already told them too. That's like, especially in jujitsu tournaments, because you can't really feel what I'm feeling on the mat necessarily. So even though they're smarter than me, I'm like, don't try to command me like a video game, because if I feel something or it doesn't compute in my head, I'm not going to do it, and you're going to get mad. So just give me ideas, and I'll take one of the ideas, but you got to present it like a multiple choice.
Yeah,
So
coaching for me, I was always more nervous coaching than fighting because it's the
yeah,
thing that you can't control, right? When you're out there, like you said, if you
mhm,
feel it and you get ideas, you can do it. But as the
yeah,
coach, you're just hoping that you can do that as the athlete can do it.
yeah. Well, that and even bigger picture, like I don't care if I get my ass beat.
Mhm.
I care that my mom gets nervous having to sit front row to watch me get my ass beat. I care that I walked out there in my gym's shorts and shirt and everything, and I'm getting my ass beat wearing their stuff, so they look like idiots because
Yep.
I'm getting my ass beat. I don't care. I don't like if the broken eye happened in my fight, I wouldn't have cared, but I care on behalf of them. I can picture my mom over there getting all mad doing this number from the third row, and it's like, well, that makes me more. I care more about that than the actual physical damage. And it's the same thing when you coach or you even just cornering your buddies at a jiu-jitsu tournament in between your matches. It's like, I know how bad it hurts me to lose, but I don't want to see you like that, and that matters more to me than like my emotions. I'll get over. I'll go roll a joint or whatever, and I'll be over it in a couple hours. But you guys, I saw how hard you worked. I didn't see how hard I worked.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So,
speaking of getting over things, you said you might be fighting in April, right? But
hoping.
hoping to fight in April. What's recovery look like from here until you're able to go back? Like, what did the doctors say? Are you gonna be able? You said you're hoping to fight in April. Are you gonna? Are they optimistic you can fight again? Are they optimistic you're
Yeah.
gonna be able
Oh,
to train
I so
jujitsu?
I
All of those
can fight
things.
again. I can fight again because I said no to a surgery. So technically speaking, because of what happened, my eye is sitting like millimeters further back in my eye socket than it normally would. And obviously if it gets broken again, it's a serious problem.
Sure.
But as of right now, they offered a surgery that was mostly cosmetic, and I said no, because if I did get the surgery, I couldn't ever fight again. Technically speaking, the recovery is 6 weeks of absolutely no strain whatsoever. I can't blow my nose because the pressure will knock the bones out of place or whatever. I can't sneeze. I have to do the little thing out of my mouth. It's very annoying. Like I said, I can't sleep on that side of my face. I was showing my girlfriend something from, I think, the Tank Davis fight. She accidentally knuckle bumped my head, not even a punch, and that caused a headache. Like, I can't do anything for 6 weeks. So after New Year's, then I can start to work out a little bit. I'll get on the bike, I'll hit some mitts, probably jump rope, do things that are non-contact. And then it's about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of that, I can start to experiment with full live go grappling, probably like flow spar and everything. And then from there, if I can flow spar, I can regular spar, at least in my head. So I'll probably rush that last 3 weeks of gray area that's on my little sheet here. So,
at that point, if you can flow, you're good to go.
Yeah, if I can get back to sparring by the beginning of March, I don't see any reason I can't fight April.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to your amateur debut for a while. Love watching your jiu-jitsu tournaments,
Me
things
too.
like that.
See, that right there, that's important though. Let's side note that. You said you love watching my jiu-jitsu tournaments. That part's important. I try real hard on that. I hate people going out there like, oh, I wrestled. Let's just get 2 points and hump his leg. Like, don't do that. I'm going to do the crazy hair. I'm going to wear the crazy shorts. It's not a spectator sport, but if it is when I'm up there, then that's all that matters to me.
It should be. More people making it a spectator sport might get it some more looks for the Olympics, because right now I think the overall consensus is that the Olympic committee thinks it's boring. So to make it not boring, we need something.
Right. Well, see, that was another thing too, is my dad doesn't like it at all. My dad hates basically anything but MMA, because even boxing, he gets mad that they're not kneeing each other. Like, he just needs constant action. So he came to a couple of my jiu-jitsu tournaments. He comes to about one a year. My mom will drag him to be nice. And he'll watch everybody else. Like, man, what the hell is this? And then I go out there and just immediately Imanari roll into a heel hook and get fired up about something that I probably shouldn't have been fired up about, start giving people hand gestures, and all that. He's like, all right, I'll watch you. This is good. And if you can make him think wrestling is entertaining, then I guess I'm doing all right. He hates it.
Good. I'm glad you can keep him entertained then.
Well, you too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to seeing more of that. Rest up. Get that eye healed up, and we'll see you back in the cage in 2022.
Sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks.